Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
KCAA.
All right, here we are. It is time for Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. Folks, I've told you for a long time, I've suggested for a long time, I've inferred for a long time that tomorrow is coming and bringing you something that you have been wishing for, wanting for, but have you been preparing for it? Oh, Wallace, what are you talking about? I'm talking about, you know, it's like the genie in the magic bottle, the magic bottle. You know, if you kick the bottle and the genie comes up and he, you know, what do you want? I mean, even as a little kid, we all started saying, well, you know, if I ever had this one wish, what would my one wish be? How am I going to, you know, manifest this one thought? How should I say, oh, I wish I had more than one wish. I wish I had 15 wishes. And like, I don't know, maybe you, me, we all figured out how to secure more wishes as opposed to spending any time figuring out really what you want. Well, that's why I want more wishes because, you know, I don't really know what I want, but I know that I'm gonna want. Folks, your life, my life, our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives, the balance of society is based from those who make a plan. Everybody else is reacting, looking for a job, holding on for some help. But what do you do with the help? What do you want to be helped to do? Do you want to help yourself become a better consumer? You know, to buy that car, to buy rings and watches and toilet paper with your name on it? Do you want to make things better for your sick grandmother or your child, cousin who is brilliant but maybe not well financed? Maybe you want to educate all of the other people to how to serve you. I don't know. But you got to have a plan. If you haven't planned something, then you're planning nothing. Now, here's the deal. Here in America, you know, at this point, the most powerful, the greatest country on the planet, built by stolen slave labor, but the slave labor, the beneficiaries, the descendants of that slave labor is still here. You've created a privileged class of people who've been able to live off of the echo of past discriminations and takeaways and brilliant thoughts. All of those things mixed together have made a tremendous stew called the United States of America. And you and I have responsibilities if we want to keep the potential of opportunity here. It's guaranteed by your spirit. Because the people who write laws. And laws are not really laws, they're rules because they can change and they fluctuate and they need to be interpreted and blah, 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 blah. But we are in a situation where there has been an assessment, an understanding of how we got here and realize that it hasn't been fair to a total group of people based on the content of melanin in their physical makeup. Black folk. People from Africa, people of color, people who are non-white, people who used to have to go to the back door, stand in a separate line, not be served by the same government that they pay their taxes to. There's been cases where the government of the United States have wronged people, like in World War II. Japanese people who lived in America Asian people who lived in America longer than some of the people who wanted them to be sequestered and put away in detention camps during World War II. But America came back and understood that they did wrong, and they come up with some reparations. I think we gave $30,000 per person, not even looking at the properties that were lost, the lives that were ruined, the attitudes that were cemented into how do I deal with this racist society. But that's what America is. It's about a big problem that comes back to solve itself and move on. And we have an opportunity to solve, or will we confuse? Certainly it's not going to be easy, but there is an opportunity here in the state of California, where California once again leads the nation in setting examples. California Reparations Committee was formed in 2020 following the killing of George Floyd and the subsequent nationwide protests against police brutality and systematic racism. Its mission is to study the impact of slavery and discrimination against Black people in California and recommend ways to compensate them for the harms they have suffered. I have two young ladies here from the Riverside County Black Chamber of Commerce that is sponsoring a town hall on reparations later in the month of April. I didn't want to announce it yesterday, being April Fool's Day, but this is something to bring us all back up to the point of not being fooled anymore. So April 21st and April 22nd, there will be a reparations town hall meeting in the city of Riverside, and I have Miss Blue Robertson and Imani Shelton here representing our opportunity to talk about reparations, how it's going to work out, and who's going to be excited, who's going to be disappointed, and how you can participate. And we'll do that right after this break. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, on the case for truth and justice, with the right information, as you'll find out right after this break.
KCAA.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
This is KCAA.
All right, we're back. This is Empire Talks Back. I am Wallace Allen. I have with me Imani Shelton and Blue Robinson. And we have on the phones Imani, who is this, our guest on the phone? His name?
His name is Chris Lodgson. He is from CJEC, California, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California.
Very good. His name again?
Chris Lodgson.
Very good. Chris, nice to have you online. We'll get right back to you in a moment. Young ladies, you're having you're representing the Riverside County Black Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, sir.
We're having a reparations town hall. What is that? What is it all about? Imani, Blue, who wants to start?
Okay, yeah, I can take this one. That's a great question. So our reparations town hall and listening session is a 2-day event. It's located in downtown Riverside at the Civil Rights Institute. So the first day is the one we really want to focus on. That's our town hall. It's going to be a great event. We want anyone from the community who's interested in learning more about reparations to come out, anyone who would like to support, anyone who wants to get involved, really anyone who wants to know anything. We want them to be there because this is going to be the first of hopefully many conversations we will be having to educate the public in the Inland Empire about the news of reparations, the movement itself, as well as the progress that's being made.
Very good, Ms. Imani. Your input on this reparations committee, exactly what is it that you are doing?
I am the project manager at the Riverside County Black Chamber of Commerce. And with reparations specifically, I am assisting Miss Blue here however she needs it.
Very good. And it's Chris. Chris, how are you this morning?
I am doing great. Good morning.
God is great. I'm grateful. Good to have you join us. And Chris, what is your role in this quest for reparations here in the state of California?
Sure. So I am the lead organizer and acting president of Coalition for Just and Equitable California. We're one of the 7 community organizations that the California State Reparations Task Force or Commission selected to do community education for California reparations. We actually helped write the law in 2020 that created the California Reparations Task Force.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. From there, what are some of the biggest obstacles that we're facing as we, as a committee there? I've got some questions, but let me see if you've got them all solved before I start bugging you here. Because, we've discussed reparations as a fireplace conversation, as a dinner table conversation, at the breakfast, in the barbershop. Sometimes we talk to ourselves about it in the bathroom. That's a big task, reparations. How did you guys get started even to write the law?
Yeah, great question. So we actually started in 2019 working with then Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber out of San Diego, now, of course, California Secretary of State Dr. Shirley Weber, on what is now the First in the Nation Reparations Task Force law and First in the Nation Reparations Task Force. And really it was from the motivation and the work and the action of regular, everyday Black folks, as we like to call ourselves, actually talking to our government officials, talking to elected officials, talking to politicians, talking to our state government to motivate them, encourage them, incentivize them to take action for California reparations. And Assemblymember Weber was absolutely open and welcomed us with open arms. And that really was the start of the work through her amazing staffers, folks like Maureen Simmons, who actually drafted the first version of the law that created the California Reparations Task Force. So really, it was a combined effort from regular, everyday Black folks, as we like to call ourselves, and politicians and government officials and staffers who really were open to the work and open to the reparations movement.
Now, that is quite a statement, because the ultimate obvious beneficiaries of reparations for African Americans would be African Americans. However, the whole concept of reparations means that as we make people whole, everybody rises up. Now, to get any group of people in America to work on reparations and agree to work on reparations is quite a task, because even in those barbershop conversations or around the dinner table or at the breakfast table, there's no big sense of agreement except that, yeah, we need to get paid. But who needs to get paid? How do you get paid? And first of all, how do you get enough people who are not African Americans to sit around and agree to create that law? Because they're, like we've been talking about it a long time, if it was just left up to a few Black folks, we'd have had our money and made this contribution, and America would be truly great. But it hasn't happened that way. So how do we generate the coalition to find the non-Black people to agree? How did Shirley Weber, if she did that, she should be running for president. Or not even running, we should just, call her Empress and let's go.
I would agree 100%, and of course, big love to Dr. Weber. And you actually, Secretary Weber, that is, and you actually pointed and touched on some of the really important things that are really important to be talking about right now for California reparations. And this actually goes to your sort of first point too about, what is it going to take to actually get this done? And you talked about building a coalition, and that's actually what you see going on with organizations like CJEC, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, which is a coalition of California organizations fighting for reparations, and then working with folks like the Riverside Black Chamber of Commerce, who are really focused on reparations also. So you're actually seeing it happen. This town hall coming up on April 21st in Riverside and the listening session that happens on April 22nd in Riverside are examples of coalition building among Black-led organizations. But you're absolutely right. We're going to need a coalition of all kinds of organizations and all kinds of people to make this actually happen. And actually, that's happening right now, too. For example, the California Reparations Task Force Subcommittee on Public Education has been working with the John Langston Bar Association and the Japanese American Bar Association to really bring organizations together in support of California reparations through an effort called supportreparations.org. That's supportreparations.org. There are over 130 organizations of all colors, creeds, stripes in California, outside of California, who have publicly said that they support reparations. And anyone listening right now who's with an organization, whether it be a nonprofit, a business, etc., you can add your organization's name to that growing list of folks who have said, yes, we support California reparations.
Very good. Then good. Let's add West Side Story newspaper and Empire Talks Back Radio to that list right away, because we are definitely a hate-free zone, and we certainly look forward to equity at every level, and we don't look forward to it just showing up. We don't mind working for it. So, and we'll work to add to that list. Reparations. Now, one of the things that is difficult about reparations is we're looking to government at some level to pay those reparations or to provide access for those reparations. What are we looking at in terms of some of the questions that have come up, for how would we pay reparations? How would we receive reparations? Would it be a credit line? Would it be cash money? Would it be based on me showing up with a proposal about how I would invest my money in self and family and government? Or do I have to guarantee to go to the casino and spend half of it there? Let's talk about that right after this break, Chris. We're going to talk more with Imani and Blue and discuss some of these difficult angles that we have to work through in order to really make this work. And some of those are distractions and some of them are accelerators. So we'll be right back and we'll see how we plan to pass this opportunity around.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
KCAA.
All right, we're back. This is Empire Talks Back, and it's Sunday, and I know you're going to be hungry at some point today. I would suggest that you go see our friends at Cafe Organics here in the city of San Bernardino at 420 East Hospitality. It's not easy to find good food, and it's really great when you find good food that's nutritious, and we have all of that over at Cafe Organics. They tend to be vegan as far as most people are concerned, but their desire is to simply fix great food. And I'm not a vegan, but I tell you what, I eat over there without any problem finding anything that I want. My taste buds are always pleased. Cafe Organics in the city of San Bernardino, 420 East Hospitality. Give them a call. You'll enjoy the fact that you did. Your taste buds will really talk nice to you. Speaking of talking nice to you, when we talk about reparations here, we don't necessarily get talked nice to. One of the things that I've always found was important to tell people when we talk about reparations, because reparations for other people seems to make a lot of sense, but slavery was so long ago, and the people, that was uncles and aunts and great grand folks who were involved, and why should we pay reparations to you who weren't, you weren't a slave? There's an echo. Folks, there's an echo for the movement of the money that was not given to black folk, the institutions that were created. And I certainly don't think that most white people walking around are, individually beneficiaries directly of slavery. But, if you've got some wealth, if you've got a couple of houses in the family, chances are you're beneficiaries of Jim Crow. So are we talking about reparations for, just ex-slaves? No, they're all dead. So we have to be talking about the descendants of slaves. And just to point out that reparations to end slavery it's not a new idea. When the people, the slaveholders in Washington, D.C., relinquished their slaves, they were paid for lost labor immediately. Didn't take long at all. So the echo is a long time coming. Reparations, Chris, Imani, Blue, who's going to be eligible for reparations? Like I said, the slaves, the people who were enslaved are no longer here.
If I can, I would like to answer this one for us. So you're right. The immediate payout was only to those who were former slaveholders and not to the slaves themselves. And so, as you mentioned before, this big question of, well, who is it going to get paid to if all the original slaves were dead? That's why this AB 3121 bill focuses on reparations for the descendants of chattel slavery. Because yes, we may not have been the ones directly contributing to the slave labor force, but because of those big foundational changes such as Jim Crow, and before that we had sharecropping, and these things that became so deeply integrated into our society that even without slavery being a thing anymore, and even without Jim Crow existing anymore, even after Reconstruction, we still have such a strong tie to that mindset. Our society has that hold over us, and because of that we have these institutional issues that just have never gone away. So even though we may not be slaves, we may not be former slaves, we are still the descendants of them, and we still are affected in the ways of things just as simple as the wealth gap, which is something we focus on a lot at our CBCC, Riverside County Black Chamber of Commerce, is just that huge difference in income between white families, white households, and minority families, specifically Black families.
Is that because white people work harder?
No, I don't think it's the case at all. I think it's, the wealth gap is something people kind of shy away from because it's a more controversial topic. But if we're being honest, it is very unlikely that in any situation.
Does it have anything to do with, as people apply for jobs, that Imani, for instance, applying for a job as with Rosemary, applying for the same job, and no real interview. We just go by the names. Is Imani going to get a good shot, as a cleaner shot as Rosemary? I don't know. Depends on who's doing the hiring, I suppose. But in general, people who would tell Imani, the girl, if you want to get that job, you better be Karen. Right? That's one of the subtleties of why we still have concerns about reparations, because there's this echo of white superiority in terms of how they deal with how other people are dealt with. And white privilege, let me say this. The first people that I hired to work for me were my children. So I understand that. Those are the ones that were in my pocket. And I understand white people hiring their children and nieces and nephews. I'm not opposed to that. I'm opposed to that when black-owned businesses try to get going, that, we have a situation like the GI Bill, where when 1950s, when World War II was over, the Korean War was over, and we created the GI Bill, there were codicils that created housing opportunities for white soldiers and specifically not for African Americans. So for anybody that thinks we have to go all the way back to slavery to find this discrepancy, hello, you don't. I'm sorry to talk so much. But did anything I say there spurs toward another level of importance for our town hall meeting on the 21st? What is that format going to be like? What kind of information will we be bringing forward? What will we be asking community people to do?
So we are definitely hoping to get community members out, the general public. I don't know if you're aware, but most of the public hearings, if not all, have been pretty much out of reach for anyone who lives in the IE, because they have all been held either in Sacramento, Oakland, in the Bay Area, and we haven't had as much love towards the Inland Empire. And so we're hoping with this coalition, with this partnership, to change that. We want people out here to have the same type of access to this education and to this movement as the people in the Bay do. So we're hoping this is just the first of many, but we need to start by getting information out there. A lot of people don't know any of the progress. They don't know that AB 3121 has even actually been signed in yet. And then we want to move from there and create a sort of a movement to where we can have this group, this community we can rely on for support when it comes to making these tough decisions and votes. After the preliminary recommendations have been finalized and made, we're going to need people to go out. We're going to need them to vote, and we're going to need them to make sure that they are keeping on top of this so that we don't have another HR 40 situation to where nothing gets done because the recommendation was made, but there was not enough support to get it signed in.
So what kind of schedule are we on? When will the recommendations be completed and delivered to the community? What is that process going to be like, Chris?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And I want to second everything my partners Blue and Imani are saying here. And it's a really important question. So the final recommendations, final plan for the State Reparations Task Force or Commission is due no later than July 1st of this year.
Really?
So July 1st, no later than of 2023. The final recommendations, final reparations plan is due from the State Commission. After that, that plan then gets sent to the governor, gets sent to the State Assembly, gets sent to the State Senate for consideration for an actual reparations law. This is important. This would be the first ever state reparations law. We already have the first ever state reparations task force law. That was the law that created the task force that we've been talking about. But the next thing is to actually do reparations, to actually get reparations. And that comes through most likely at least one California reparations task force law. And so that law will start to be being made or cooked up or created hopefully after July 1st, probably sometime between July 1st and maybe, this time next year, we should see some of the first version of a state reparations task force law. And if I could, just for one moment here, maybe less than a moment,
take your
just
time.
To back up a second, because you asked a very important question earlier about how are we defining reparations and how is the state reparations task force defining reparations, and also what can people expect to learn more of and about at the town hall on April 21st in Riverside. Please do come out, family. It's free. It's open to the public. And the following day listening session where we want to hear from you. But the task force has talked about reparations in 5 different forms: compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, guarantees of non-repetition, and satisfaction. So compensation, that's the most easy to understand part. That's the money. That's the financial part. Our people work for free for 256 plus years. As I've said, personally, if it doesn't have compensation, it's not reparations. Restitution is the return of land or the return of property. Rehabilitation are things like free medical services, free legal services, free social services from cradle to the grave. Guarantees of non-repetition are changes to our system, changes to our laws, changes to existing policy that make sure that what happened to us never happens again. And then satisfaction are things that you might think of as more symbolic. So, for example, a formal public apology from our state government. So compensation plus restitution plus rehabilitation plus guarantees of non-repetition plus satisfaction equals reparations. And the California Reparations Task Force is required by law to create reparations that come in those 5 forms.
By January 31st, July 31st.
Yep, By July 1st, yeah.
By July 1st or July 31st? July 1st.
July 1st.
End of June, June 30th. Wow. Okay, we're going to take a short break so you can rest, and then you're going to come back and tell me how are you going to do that, or what. That sounds like something has to have been decided by now. One of these categories should have about 7 or 8 checkoffs or something. Come back, folks, right after this break. We're going to see where are we in this process and how much input you have to help square it away by July 1st. Wow. But that's timely, though, because it's right after Juneteenth and right before the 4th of July, right in that what I call the freedom corner. So we are supposed to be working on our freedom, and that sounds like a great setup for the 4th of July. I'm in. I love it. Okay, we're going to take this short break. We'll come back, and we're going to line up the script and get everybody a part and a procedure for when they will play it. We'll be right back.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
All right, now, this is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. You've been driving that Volvo. That Volvo's been starting up for you, doing everything it's supposed to. A couple of lights come on, but being a good, dependable car, that Volvo just rolls along anyway. So you've been neglecting the car. Tell the truth. But if you want to let that Volvo give you that, I mean, I'm talking about that 2011 and older. If you want that Volvo to give you your 500,000 miles, you need to give it a couple of opportunities at the Volvo doctor. Give my friend Tom at All Make Auto an opportunity to give your car a checkup. Your Volvo in particular. 425-8200. That's 909 area code 425-8200. He works on other cars too, but I got a Volvo and he keeps mine running real good. All right. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're talking about reparations. You know, like the pig payback. Kind of like if you don't get your car fixed, it'll stop on the freeway on you one day. That's reparations as well. That's a big payback. But we're talking about descendants of slaves, African Americans, black folk in the state of California, in a state where the state has agreed that we've been off base, we have not been equitable, and that we realize that there is a tremendous treasure hidden in the African American community that if we vest in it, we will continue to get tremendous returns, because look at the returns we've gotten from mistreatment. So an equitable infusion into the African American community will probably have tremendous benefits for the whole planet, because the California economy is like number 9 on the planet by itself. So with that type of investment, what kind of schedule, Chris, are we on to complete this movement of reparations? I understand we're going to have till the 1st of July to submit the program that defines who's going to get it, how they're going to get it, when they're going to get it, and I'll have to work on that part of how prepared we are to do what we need to do with it when we get it, and that's going to be another part of the town halls if you let me talk. So with that part, Chris, you were saying June 1st, July 1st.
July 1st.
I'm saying with that, you have to have some things pretty well checked off. What's the most complete segment of this 5-point reparations package?
Yeah, great question. So I think there are a couple of really important completed or nearly completed, almost completed points. And by the way, if folks are interested in seeing the up-to-date, really daily progress of the California Reparations Task Force, they can go to www.oag.ca.gov/AB3121 to the official website of the California Reparations Task Force and actually see the running list of plans and proposals specifically that the task force has been working on. But I think what's
Chris,
important
let
to highlight are a couple
me
things.
interrupt you just a second
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
When we give that many numbers, it sounds like we don't want them to really have it. So, so what I'd like for you to do, or Imani, somebody, give me that link and let people know that they can call me, and I'll send them that link, or let them know they can call you, and you'll actually send them the link, because I almost had to go back to bed right after hearing that list.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
I appreciate that. And actually, to make it easier for folks, if you go to our website, cjec-official.org, it's all there too, right? So that's a much easier to think about and say. But back to your question. So a few important things. First, as my partner Blue mentioned, deciding who would be eligible, I think, was a big deal and a big key thing that the task force has already completed. It's almost impossible to do anything else if you don't know who you're talking about and who this is for. And the task force decided really last year, after a lot of public comment, a lot of testimony, a lot of discussion among the task force itself, who would be eligible for reparations in California. And that is, as Blue mentioned, those who are descendants of U.S. slavery, those who are descendants, and specifically those who are African-American descendants of persons enslaved or free and living in the United States before the year 1900. Just over the past weeks or so, at the last task force public hearings here in Sacramento, the task force also decided that you also have to have a minimum of 6 months residency in California to also be eligible. So you have to have those two things, that descendancy piece and also that residency piece also, to be eligible. So that's been completed or nearly completed, a big important part of what we're going to see in the final plan. Also, the recommendation that the state create something called the the California African American Freedmen Affairs Agency, which will be the agency that will be responsible for administering reparations and also be responsible for providing oversight for existing state agencies, existing state government pieces and components that are either are or not doing a good job of supporting and serving the descendant community. Also, I think important to highlight lastly is that there will be a set of compensation directly to the descendants who are living in or at least have some residency here in the state of California. So I think those are the three biggest things that are already nearly completed. But again, if folks want to see the running list of the specific things that the task force is working on, go to our website, cjec-official.org, and then find the link to the Reparations Task Force website.
You mean you guys haven't been keeping this a drama secret so that on the first, we can have this big TV thing and this big announcement and just blow everybody's mind, we
need the public. No, we need folks like the folks listening and yourself as well to actually be a part of the process. And folks have been doing a great job being a part of the process so far, but we need more people. You can actually submit your thoughts and your ideas to the State Reparations Task Force directly. You can attend an upcoming public hearing. By the way, the next public hearing is Saturday, May 6th, somewhere in the Bay Area. We don't have a location yet. And you can actually give public comment in person, or you can attend virtually and give public comment. But you don't have to wait for a public hearing to talk to the California Reparations Task Force. You can email the California Reparations Task Force, and you can actually call and leave a voicemail for the California Reparations Task Force, and we'll get you that information as well.
Now, you mentioned virtual, so I may not come to that May 5th or May 6th town hall, but you're suggesting that I could pick it up virtually. I could be online to see what's going on and maybe chat into it, or what are the parameters for these meetings? Absolutely,
and so there's two things to mention. There's the town hall that ourselves at the Coalition and the Riverside Chamber, the Riverside County Black Chamber of Commerce are co-hosting on Friday, April 21st and Saturday, April 22nd. That is a free, public, open to the community town hall and listening session. That will also be virtual as well. So it's an in-person and virtual event, and we're encouraging folks to register virtually and, of course, attend in person, especially if you're in Riverside, especially also if you're in San Bernardino County as well. We want you there. So that's our organization's town hall and listening session. But the State Reparations Task Force is holding their next public hearing on Saturday, May 6th. And yes, that also has a virtual option as well. You can actually listen to the hearings on YouTube. You can actually listen and watch the hearings rather on YouTube at the California Department of Justice YouTube channel, at the California Department of Justice website for the California Reparations Task Force. Also, our organization works with a really, really awesome media company called ETM Media Group, who also live streams all of the California Reparations Task Force public hearings on YouTube. And every single hearing, you can actually call in during public comment and give public comment as well. So you can give public comment in person or on the phone.
So you really have to be under a rock somewhere to not be able to participate on this. So it'll be, yours are live streamed. You can call in. You can come in. You have access. Wow, that sounds good. That sounds very good. If we're able to distribute that money that easily, that's going to be just as good. Get your money here virtually. Be prepared. When we come back, I want to kind of dig in your minds a little bit about the responsibility we as citizens who may be recipients of this reparation movement. What are some of the responsibilities? And I'm sure that'll be described by some of the concerns you had about who to give it to, how to give it to them, and things of that sort. We'll be right back, folks. We are in the age of Aquarius, where the things that you want and are willing to plan for are evidently available. You know, there's people who've said that if you can dream it, you can claim it and make it. Sounds like we're in that time frame. So wake up! That's better than, woke is better than being asleep, right? We'll be right back.
Where we'll end up, I don't know.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
All right, we're back. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We are talking about reparations. That's payback. That's for people who've been unavailable to the benefits of society. Reparations, I think once we get this California reparations thing going and more people hear about it, there's going to be a movement in Tennessee or in West Virginia or one of those great coal mining companies where we are all going to say, you know, those coal miners should get reparations for the big lie that they've been told about how safe it was to work in the coal mines, how necessary it was to risk their lives and the lives of their children and descendants, and how they had to pledge allegiance to, lung disease in order to make their lives better. I think they deserve reparations at some point too, because the big lie is the big lie, and everybody that's been lied to deserves to be squared away, at least so their children and grandchildren can make things happen. But here we are. One of the things that we see as a deficiency in the African American community is access to education, finances, and understanding how to do. So we're going to, drop a lot of money on some people who may or may not know what to do with it. How do we deal with that aspect of it? Because this is and should be an investment. Mm-hmm. And certainly, if it's a payback, there's some of that should possibly go to rings and watches and toilet paper with your name on it. But I'm thinking that a economic impact like that should have some real. So what do you think people should do with this money, Imani?
Right. So, firstly, I do want to mention what the Riverside County Black Chamber of Commerce is planning to do before reparations take a start. We are getting ready to also launch our BIPOC loan fund this summer, Black Indigenous People of Color Loan Fund. This is going to start in June. We have been working with another company called First Community Capital, which is a CDFI. It's a little lower than a bank, but they're Community Development Financial Institution. We have been able to work with the Small Business Administration, SBA, to get $750,000 if we are able to fundraise I believe it's 15% of it, so $112,500. Once we reach that goal of $112,500, we are able to get the $750,000 to give directly in microloans through First Community Capital directly to small businesses in the Inland Empire. That is a part of our mission to create 100 Black businesses and 100 homes with our reparations movement.
Okay, and that's so you're kind of preparing them for. Whether or not we get it right away, we're going to be educated and given an opportunity to go into businesses. This would be for new businesses, right? Or
new and existing.
New and existing businesses. All right. Chris, what should people be planning to do with this money individually?
This is one of the best questions. So, there's a few things to say about it. I'll say one or two, though. So, when we do, for example, California reparations listening sessions like we're going to do on Saturday, April 22nd in Riverside, following the town hall on Friday, April 21st in Riverside, one of the questions that we ask usually at our listening sessions is for folks to tell us what they would do with their reparations money and what would they do. And there was actually a really awesome story that came out. I forget which publication it was, but it was a major national publication over the last, I believe, 3 months or so that actually, spoke to a lot of folks about what they would do with their reparations money. And, not surprisingly, folks said that they would do a lot of what we think folks would do, which is invest in their own families, send their kids to school, buy property, buy businesses, really, take care of debt, et cetera. People would invest it in themselves and also invest it in their own communities and also invest in building businesses and, building economic power for ourselves as a descendant community, something that we haven't had really ever in this country. So that's what folks have said that they would do. I have my own personal preferences, and I'm sure you do too, but that's what folks have said that they would do with their reparations money, really invest in themselves, invest in their communities, invest in building businesses, and invest in their future generations, too. This is one thing that we hear a lot from folks, that they want to create generational wealth, that they want to make sure that their kids and their kids' kids never have to go through what our ancestors had to go through and what we've had to go through as a people. So folks have said they want to make sure that this lasts a long time, and so they want to invest also in addition to their community, in addition to themselves, in addition to their business, in their actual children.
The idea of investing, the wording is pretty simple to put together, but when we ask someone to put together a business plan, that it gets a bit more difficult. When the magic genie does appear and says, you've got one wish, we may be able to say, well, I wish I had 2 wishes. But the idea is still, what is the plan? And in a community that may have individuals collect a lot of money, are we prepared to come together on a plan and do something with that money in a communal sense? I think, once again, the responsibility that other businesses, chambers, churches, fraternities, sororities have to have this opportunity to pull people together to make real investments in the community, to make real investments, something beyond, if you got 500 people who are going to go buy a car, the same kind of car, I would say, hey, everybody's going to buy that car. Let's go make a deal, like a dealership, and get a deal on the cars. We need to talk about how to be high-level consumers. We need to talk about how to trust and figure out who to trust to handle our money. It's a lot to it, and I'm glad that we're on the precipice to have to deal with that. It's there in the horizon, and what is your personal thing that you would do with your money, Chris?
That's a great question. The first thing I thought about that I would do was, create some generational wealth for my son. That was the first thing that I thought about. Also, I thought about my mother, who I know has worked since before I was born, been working so hard to support myself and my brothers and my sister. And so I would give some of the money to my mother, and
she's going to get some. She's going to get her pile.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I actually want to, buy my mom a house and, all that stuff. My mom is outside of California. So I want to take care of my mother. So I want to take care of my son. I want to take care of my mother. I also want to invest in my own growing business. I'm also, in addition to one of the lead organizers with Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, I'm also an entrepreneur here in the Sacramento area. And so part of what I would do is grow my business and do exactly what you were just talking about, which is look for other entrepreneurs to also connect to my growing business and maybe even invest in their businesses and actually bring folks to help invest in my business. So that's some of the stuff that I would do.
Imani, you don't have that much time as Chris took, but what would you do with your money? And Blue, what would you do with your money? And you got about 30 seconds each.
Oh, I'm going to get land.
Okay.
I'm going to get land. I am from South Carolina, where we know many of us black folk weren't able to keep it. Mm-hmm. So I plan on getting land out in South Carolina, supporting my family.
Blue?
Yes, definitely. I think I would first reinvest in myself with my education, and then I would secure a platform for myself in the future, because I do plan on running to being in politics for a while and doing my own platform in that sense. And so just making sure that I have a fund for when I am ready to move forward. I think that's my biggest goal right now.
Now, I'm going to suggest something that you guys might want to be concerned about at that level of where you are organizing, Chris, is that, I've got some grandsons and nieces and nephews that don't live in California yet. Did you get the yet part? How do we, you say 6 months residence, blah, 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 blah. We got to watch that, because there's some people who say, well, why don't you guys move in now, because, we'll balance it out when you get your money. Listen, you got to worry about smooth-thinking people who are not necessarily in line with what you want to do. But we're going to figure all of that out. We've got difficulty in doing it, but at least we have a reason for doing it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate that you're looking forward to the future and making a plan. What are you going to do when the money hits you? What are you going to do? Well, on the 21st and 22nd of April, you'll get a chance to participate in that here in the local area, and you don't have to be real local, because they're going to stream it. Mm-hmm. You can deal with it virtually. There are other meetings that are taking place that you can get with. So once again, Chris, Imani, Blue, I appreciate you guys. This is in the Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. See you next week under 2 circumstances. 1, if the good Lord's willing. 2, if the creek don't rise. God bless you.
KCAA Loma Linda.